You ever notice how the loudest person in the room usually has the least to show for it? They're always talking about what they're building, where they're going, what they're about to do, and yet nothing. No results. No proof. Just noise. Let me tell you something that most people will never admit. The more you talk about what you're doing, the less likely you are to actually do it. Because every time you share your plans, your energy goes out with it. Your momentum leaks. And the worst part, you open yourself up to judgment, doubt, opinions, and even sabotage. People love to smile in your face while quietly hoping you fall. That friend you confide in. They're watching you not to support, but to compete. That coworker who says, wow, good for you, is secretly thinking, who do you think you are? So why do we keep giving people the map to our future when we know they're not rooting for the journey? Here's what they don't want you to know. Real power moves in silence. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't talk about what they're building, they just build. And when they show up, it's done. No warning, no hype, just result. If you're the kind of person who's tired of being underestimated, tired of feeling drained from oversharing, tired of explaining your ambition to people who don't even have one, this is for you. Because after today, you won't just understand why silence is your superpower. You'll start using it, and when you do, they'll never see you coming. When you start keeping your moves to yourself, something powerful happens. Your focus sharpens. Your energy stays contained. You become more intentional, more strategic, more in control. Because the truth is, your silence isn't empty, it's full of potential. Privacy isn't about being secretive or mysterious for the sake of ego. It's about protecting what's still growing. Every dream, every plan, every idea you have is like a seed. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every few days to show people how it's doing. You protect it, you water it, you let it grow in silence, underground, in the dark where no one sees it. That's how real growth happens. And it's the same with your goals. You don't need to announce everything you're working on. You need to protect it from distractions, from noise, from people who don't have your vision and never will. Because once you start talking, you start leaking. You leak the power that could have gone into execution. You leak time explaining yourself. You leak your mental focus trying to defend your path to people who aren't even on theirs. And that leaks how your fire goes out before it even lights the room. See, when you overshare, you give people power they never earned. You hand them the ability to doubt you, criticize you, question you, and in some cases, copy you. You open the door for their energy to mix with your vision. And here's what most people won't tell you. Not everyone deserves to be in the room with your ideas. Not everyone is meant to witness your process. Some people only exist to poke holes, plant seeds of doubt, and throw you off course. Not because they're evil, but because they're small. And when small-minded people see big dreams, they react out of fear, insecurity, or jealousy. They'll say things like, are you sure that's a good idea? Or I don't think that's realistic. Or worse, you're not really the type to pull that off. And now suddenly, you're second-guessing yourself. Not because your idea is bad, but because you invited the wrong voice into a conversation that wasn't theirs to begin with. The less people know, the safer your process becomes. And here's where it gets even more important. Privacy keeps you agile. When no one knows what you're building, you're free to evolve. You're free to pivot. You're free to fail without an audience watching. And that's priceless, because success isn't a straight line. You're going to hit walls. You're going to have setbacks. But if you've told the whole world what you're doing, now you're under pressure. Now you're performing. And when you perform instead of build, you dilute your work. You're no longer doing it for the purpose. You're doing it for the applause. That's why the most powerful people are often the quietest. They're not posting every move. They're not explaining themselves in group chats. They're not giving interviews before the first step is even taken. They're locked in, heads down, work in progress, and then boom, they launch, they publish, they execute. No warning, no validation, just results. State you want peace. Stop giving people reasons to comment on your life. Stop giving them a backstage pass to your mind. The moment you realize you don't need to explain yourself, you'll feel lighter. You'll get your time back. You'll take back your creative energy, and you'll stop living in reaction to other people's opinions. It doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become selective. You start building in silence, you speak less and do more. And when you do speak, it's not about what you're going to do, it's about what you've already done. That's the power shift. Because now, no one can stop what they didn't see coming. Think about it. The most valuable things in life are protected. Diamonds are buried. Money is locked away. Military strategies are classified. So why are you broadcasting your vision to people who wouldn't know what to do with it, even if you gave them the blueprint? There's a reason the phrase, "move in silence," exists. It's not just a cool quote. It's a survival tactic. It's how you preserve your vision until it's strong enough to stand on its own. It's how you build resilience. It's how you stay sane in a world obsessed with oversharing and digital validation. So protect your vision, guard your process, stay quiet while you build loud. And when the time is right, speak, not to prove anything, but to share what's already done. That's real power. That's privacy. And once you taste it, you'll never give it up. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn in life is this. Most people cannot handle your ambition. Not because you're wrong, not because your dream is too big, but because your vision reminds them of everything they're not doing. You think when you share your goals, people will be inspired. You think they'll cheer for you, uplift you, support your hustle. But the truth is, when your light starts to shine a little too bright, people start to squint. They start to flinch because your boldness makes their comfort uncomfortable. Your movement reminds them that they've been standing still. And instead of asking how they can level up, they start asking questions like, who does she think she is? Or why does he need to do all that? That's when you start to feel it. The weird energy, the passive-aggressive comments, the subtle sarcasm, the fake support that feels more like a backhanded compliment than actual encouragement. Suddenly your ambition becomes a problem. Not to you, but to them. And here's the truth. It was never about you. It was about what your vision activates in them. See, people love to keep others at their level. It makes them feel safe. It confirms their choices. So when you start to break out, when you talk about quitting your job, starting a business, leveling up your fitness, moving to a new city, taking a risk, they don't see the possibilities. They see the threat. Because if you succeed, they're forced to look at their own life and admit they've been settling. And not everyone's ready to do that. That's why your boldness doesn't always bring support. It brings resistance. And often the resistance comes from the people closest to you, the ones you thought would ride for you, the ones you trusted with your dreams. And suddenly you're stuck between two hard truths. You want to share your wins, but you don't want to shrink. You want connection, but not at the cost of your potential. So what do? You stop expecting everyone to understand your ambition. You stop giving your fire to people who only know how to pour water on it. You protect your vision the way a mother protects her child. Fiercely, intentionally, unapologetically. You don't need everyone to clap. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. You need consistency. You need courage, because here's what's real. Your path is not up for debate. Your calling is not a committee decision. And your purpose doesn't need a permission slip. There are people who will never see what you see, even if you drew them a map. That doesn't mean your vision is invalid. It means you're ahead of your time. And being ahead comes with solitude. It comes with misunderstanding. It comes with moments where you feel like no one gets it. But that's okay. You weren't called to be understood. You were called to lead. And leadership often begins in isolation. So when someone tells you, you're doing too much, hear what they're really saying. You're making me uncomfortable with your progress. When they say, don't get your hopes up, what they mean is, I've stopped hoping for myself, and I can't watch you still believe. When they joke about your goals, brush it off. Their fear is not your problem. Their comfort zone is not your home. You don't owe anyone an explanation for wanting more, for being hungry, for showing up differently, for dreaming wildly. You are not crazy for believing in something bigger. You are not arrogant for choosing growth. You are not selfish for choosing you. And if they can't handle your ambition, let them go. Because the people who are meant to be in your life won't question your fire. They'll help you fan it. They'll fuel it. They'll stand in the heat with you and say, let's go. They won't flinch when you speak big dreams. They'll say, that makes sense. They won't tell you to slow down. They'll say, keep pushing. That's how you know who your people are. And sometimes you gotta walk through a few lonely seasons to find them. So protect your vision like it's gold, because it is. Move in silence when you need to. Elevate in private. Build in the shadows if that's what it takes. But never ever dim your ambition to make someone else feel safe. If they wanted more, they could go get it too. Your light doesn't owe anyone an apology. Your power doesn't need to shrink to fit small rooms. And your ambition? It was given to you for a reason. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand out. And if standing out makes people uncomfortable, let them deal with it. That's not your weight to carry. Your only job is to keep moving forward. Eyes forward, head high, mouth shut. Let your work speak. Because when it's all said and done, they won't remember what you told them. They'll remember what you did. There's a freedom most people never taste in their lifetime. The freedom that comes when you realize you don't owe anyone an explanation. Not for your dreams, not for your decisions, not for the way you choose to live your life. The moment you stop justifying your path to people who don't walk it with you is the moment you reclaim your power. But society trains us to explain ourselves. From the time we're young, we're conditioned to seek approval, to gain permission, to make people understand our choices. We're taught to be polite, agreeable, palatable. So when we start to grow into ourselves, when we finally decide to make bold moves, we instinctively look around and start explaining. We feel guilty for not following the traditional path. We feel the need to clarify our intentions to people who may not even have our best interests in mind. And that's a trap. Every time you explain yourself to the wrong person, you're negotiating your confidence. You're giving away pieces of your certainty just to be accepted. But here's the truth. People don't have to understand your journey to respect it. And if they don't respect it, that's not your problem. That's not your burden to carry. Let it go. You don't owe your family an explanation for why you chose a different career. You don't owe your friends a breakdown of why you've gone quiet while working on yourself. You don't owe social media an announcement for every decision you make in silence. Some things are meant to be private. Some moves are meant to be made without a press release. Because what you're building doesn't require a panel of opinions. It requires your focus. Every second you spend explaining is a second you could have spent executing. And let's be honest, most people don't really want an explanation. What they want is influence. They want to steer you, shape you, mold your decisions into something they're comfortable with. And when they can't, they start to guilt you. They say things like, "You've changed," or "I just don't get it," or "Why can't you just be normal?" But what they really mean is, "I don't like that I no longer have control over how you show up in this world." That's why explaining yourself often leads to conflict, not clarity, because the people asking for explanations aren't always seeking understanding. They're seeking control. They want you to bend so they can stay comfortable. But your life was never meant to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. And the moment you start contorting yourself to fit someone's expectations, you abandon your own growth. So stop trying to make everyone comfortable with your evolution. Growth is uncomfortable, not just for you, but for the people around you. And sometimes the people who love the old version of you will feel threatened by the new version. That doesn't mean you owe them an explanation. That means it's time to let them adjust or let them go. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to do what's best for your mental health, your peace, your future. And if someone can't understand that, it's not your job to convince them. Your job is to stay aligned with who you're becoming. When you really tap into your power, you stop asking for permission to be yourself. You start walking in your truth, whether people clap or not. Because the applause is optional. The mission is not. You don't need external validation for an internal knowing. You don't need everyone on board to sail your ship. Some of your biggest breakthroughs will happen in silence, in solitude, without fanfare or agreement. And that's okay, because when the results show up, no one can deny them. When the glow up happens, the ones who doubted you will pretend they always believed. When the work pays off, the same people who questioned you will be the ones saying, "I knew you could do it." But you'll know the truth. You'll remember the silence. You'll remember the moments you sat in your room working late, second guessing, struggling, but never quitting. You'll remember how you stopped explaining yourself and started showing up. You'll remember how you protected your peace, your vision, your growth, even when it was lonely. So let them wonder, let them talk, Let them make assumptions. That's their job. Yours is to stay grounded. Yours is to build. Yours is to protect the sacred space between who you were and who you're becoming. That space is fragile, it's sacred, and it doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be respected. When you realize that you don't owe anyone an explanation, you move differently, you walk taller, you speak less, you trust yourself more. And people notice. They might not say it, but they feel it. That quiet confidence, that's not arrogance, it's alignment. That's what it looks like when someone finally stops seeking permission and starts giving themselves full access to their own life. So, from this day forward, protect your energy, guard your intentions, move with purpose, not apology, and remind yourself every single time you're tempted to explain, I don't owe anyone anything. I owe it to myself to keep going. There comes a point in your journey where you stop needing to talk about what you're going to do because you're too busy doing it. You don't waste time convincing people. You don't need their validation, approval, or applause. You let the results speak loudly, clearly, without a single word. In a world obsessed with posting, announcing, and broadcasting every step, it's easy to get caught up in the noise. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be recognized before the work is even done. They're sharing ideas before they've even started the plan. They're talking about dreams they haven't lifted a single finger to build. And it feels good, right? That temporary high of telling the world what you're about to do. You get the likes, the claps, the hype, but not the discipline. And hype doesn't build anything. Discipline does. There's something powerful about the person who doesn't say a word, but shows up every day. They're not posting progress. They're not giving speeches. They're not seeking attention. They're just doing the work relentlessly, privately, without distraction. And then out of nowhere, they launch, they win, they arrive, and the room goes silent. Because no one saw it coming. Why? Because they let the results speak. That's the difference between noise and power. Power doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. And when your work is real, it speaks volumes. It's undeniable. You don't have to chase attention. Your results become the proof. Your life becomes the evidence. And that's a much stronger statement than any caption post or announcement could ever make. Letting results speak is about playing the long game. It's about staying focused when no one's watching. It's about pushing through when there's no audience. Most people quit because they don't see quick feedback. They want the reward without the repetition. But you learn to fall in love with the process. You learn to keep building, even in silence, because you know what's coming. And it's not about being secretive. It's not about being overly private for the sake of mystery. It's about maturity. It's about knowing that your energy is better spent in execution than explanation. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you open the door for unnecessary noise, doubt, questions, opinions, distractions. And every time you allow someone else's voice to enter your process, you risk shifting the direction of your vision. Not because their voice is louder, but because you made room for it in a space that should have been sacred. So instead, you choose silence, you choose discipline, you choose results. Because when you show them the outcome, they don't get to argue with it. They can doubt your ideas, they can question your methods, they can mock your silence, but they can't deny the facts. Results are bulletproof. They end conversations, they eliminate debate, and they do something far more important than talking ever could. They inspire. People don't change because you told them what to do. They change because they see what you've done. They see your transformation, they see your consistency, they see your growth, and suddenly you're not just speaking words, you're setting an example. That's what leadership looks like. Quiet, powerful, proven. Think about the people you admire, the ones who walk with calm confidence, the ones who don't boast or brag or explain. They don't have to. Their lives speak for them. Their discipline speaks for them. Their results speak for them. That's what you should aim for, not to be the loudest, but to be the realest. Because the world is tired of noise, tired of big talkers with small follow-through, tired of people who announce greatness but never do the work. Be different. Be consistent. Be the one who doesn't have to say a word because your actions are louder than any speech. And remember, results don't come overnight. They're the byproduct of discipline, sacrifice, and relentless effort. There will be days when no one claps, no one notices, no one believes in you. Good. Let that fuel you. Let that sharpen you. Because when it's done, when you arrive, they won't be able to ignore you. Not because you begged for attention, but because you earned it. Let them talk while you work. Let them laugh while you grind. Let them question while you stay locked in. You don't need to defend your dream. You don't need to explain your ambition. You don't need to prove anything to anyone right now. Just work. Just build. Just show up. And when the time is right, let your results do the talking. There's a kind of silence that's not passive. It's powerful. It's not the silence of avoidance, weakness, or fear. It's intentional. It's calculated. It's strategic. It's the kind of silence that shields your vision while you build it. The kind that creates mystery, clarity, and control all at once. That kind of silence, it's an art, and once you master it, your entire life changes. Strategic silence is knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. It's about understanding that not every thought needs to be shared. Not every plan needs to be announced. Not every move needs to be documented. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is keep people guessing. Not because you want to be secretive for the sake of drama, but because you've learned that your power is in your privacy. In a world that constantly tells you to share, overshare, and broadcast every piece of your life, silence becomes a rebellion. And not just rebellion. For some, it's protection. Think about it. The more you share, the more people feel entitled to your process. Suddenly, everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants to give advice. Everyone starts inserting their doubts into your direction. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin reshaping your dream to make it more comfortable for them. That's how dreams die. Not because they're impossible, but because too many people got to touch them before they were fully formed. But when you practice strategic silence, you create a boundary, a barrier, a safe space where your ideas, growth, and healing can happen without outside interference. You learn to protect your energy, your time, and your focus. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself. You stop seeking validation. You stop leaking power, because every time you overshare, you hand someone a piece of your control, and they don't always give it back. Strategic silence is not coldness. It's not shutting down. It's choosing your words and your audience with precision. It's understanding that not everyone has earned access to your thoughts. Not everyone has earned the right to know what's next. Some people only want access so they can monitor you, copy you, or control you. But when you move in silence, they can't track you. They can't predict you. They can't stop what they can't see coming. There's power in not being easily rid, power in being underestimated, power in catching people off guard with results instead of promises. That's the game changer. Because when you don't talk about what you're doing, you give yourself the freedom to grow without judgment. You give yourself the space to pivot, to evolve, to fail in peace and rise without permission. Strategic silence also gives you leverage. The less people know about your next move, the less they can prepare for it. When they expect you to stay still and suddenly you're 3 steps ahead, they're left speechless. Not because you said something, but because you said nothing and still move. That's what makes silence a weapon, a tool, a strategy. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to explain your strategy to prove it works. Let people think you're inactive. Let them assume you've slowed down. While they're busy watching, you're busy building. And when you show up with results they never saw coming, they'll realize just how loud your silence really was. There's also peace in silence. When you stop sharing everything, you stop inviting noise into your life. You stop feeding distractions. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You make decisions faster. You stop second guessing. Because the more quiet your environment becomes, the louder your inner voice grows. That voice is your guide, your compass, your real power source. But most people never hear it because they're too busy talking. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you observation. You begin to notice things others miss. You start seeing who's really for you and who just wants access. You learn who respects your space and who gets uncomfortable when they're not in control of your narrative. Silence reveals truth, not just about the world, but about yourself. And here's the beautiful part. When you finally do speak, people listen because they've learned that when you talk, you mean it. When you speak, it's not noise, it's purpose. Your words carry more weight because they're not thrown around carelessly. You've trained people to value what you say because you don't give it away for free. That's how leaders move, with intention, with clarity, with discipline. Not everything needs to be said. Not every feeling needs to be shared in real time. Learn to hold back. Learn to sit in the discomfort of being silent when you want to speak. That's how you develop power over yourself. And the one who controls their words controls their world. So master the art of strategic silence. Use it to protect your growth. Use it to sharpen your vision. Use it to disarm the people who think they know your next move. And most importantly, use it to stay rooted in your purpose, because the most powerful moves are the ones no one sees coming until it's too late to stop them. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is strength, dressed in calm. It is power that doesn't need an audience. When you stop announcing and start executing, the game changes. You no longer live for validation, approval, or applause. You live for results. You operate with clarity. You protect your purpose. And most importantly, you take full control of your life. Let others talk. Let them guess. Let them underestimate you. That's fine. While they're distracted by noise, you're focused on mastery. While they're performing for attention, you're building a foundation they'll never be able to shake. You don't owe anyone your thoughts. You don't owe them your plans. You don't owe them a heads up, an explanation, or a warning. You owe it to yourself to protect what matters. You owe it to your future to keep moving, even when no one is watching. Because when it's time, when the work is done, when the results show up, you won't have to say a word. They'll hear you, loud and clear.